Please read Revelation chapter 16. Now the voice from the temple instructs the seven angels to go out and pour out the bowls of God's wrath onto the earth. Now, if you happen to start listening to this chapter first, please stop right now. No one should ever start at this point to understand God. There are 15 previous chapters which show the mercy and kindness of God. That should be your first stop. Better yet, look at the history of humankind and then read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It is important to know how we, as the human race, got to this point. Before God ever pronounced judgment and poured out his wrath, he sent warning after warning and poured out his mercy in abundance. This chapter shows what the seven angels poured out on those who either reluctantly or willingly took the mark of the beast, even after all the previous warnings. The mark of the beast has been addressed previously. Basically, the mark of the beast could be the system of people who try to control everything and everyone, kind of what's happening right now in our country. It is groupthink, social norm, peer pressure, elimination of anyone who does or says something other than what they are doing and saying. It is the number of man, 6, so disgustingly full of themselves and their ability, 666, that they try to play God in every aspect of life. And those willing to accept this foolish, self-serving, demonically influenced system of government will suffer the consequences. So here's a synopsis of what happens when each bowl is poured out. The first bowl brings gross sores on the body of those with the mark. The second bowl, poured out on the sea, causes it to turn to blood, and every living creature dies. The third bowl causes the rivers and springs to turn to blood. The fourth bowl is poured out, and the sun is given permission to scorch the inhabitants of the earth with great heat and fire. The fifth bowl brings darkness, perhaps even more spiritual darkness, causing the inhabitants to gnaw their teeth in pain because of the darkness in their sores, probably from this mark, which has chemicals and things in it. Okay, the sixth bowl causes the Euphrates River to dry up, and all the rulers of the world gather for battle. They are angry, in severe pain from the plagues, and easily influenced by the demonic powers released on the earth to go to war against God. They gear up to fight at Armageddon. The seventh bowl is poured out, and the voice from the temple in heaven says, "It is finished." Now, if you read these judgments on the earth and you think, as you should, that God is in control of everything, and that if he didn't send the plagues, the famines, the demons, and every other horrible thing mentioned in Revelation, he surely could have stopped it, you would be right. However, there is one very important thing you should know about God. He has never had to lift one finger to punish humankind. He's not writhing his hands and worried about how he's going to keep control of this rebellious creation. All he did was put his words in place before the foundation of the world. Just like the law of gravity does not need to be monitored, no gravity police are necessary if you decide to step off a cliff. God's word to us about sowing and reaping does not need to be monitored. It goes like this: do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. It's in Galatians 6 and 7. No need to stop man's evil plans in the last days. The more devious and diabolical they are, the more destruction they heap upon themselves, both in this life and the afterlife. Know this also about God. His nature is absolutely consistent. His grace is extraordinarily amazing. His mercy is overwhelmingly enduring. His patience has supernatural longevity. I know that for a fact. His love is exceedingly abundant. Then there's his judgment. is heart-stoppingly severe. He is kind, but he is also just to the same degree. This is how God described himself to Moses as he passed in front of him. The Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty. The mercy and forgiveness has been abundant. Unfortunately, the judgment is now overdue, and this chapter ends the same way chapter 11 ends, with a few added elements, which further suggests that all that John is seeing from chapter 12 through chapter 19 are different perspectives of the final moments of Earth's destruction. So chapter 11 ends with, and there were noises and thunders and lightning, and there was a great earthquake, such as a mighty and great earthquake as had not occurred since men were on the earth. Chapter 16 ends with, then the thunder crashed and rolled and lightning flashed, and there was a great earthquake of a magnitude not unprecedented in human history. What elements does chapter 16 add to the end of days? The Battle of Armageddon. Armageddon in Hebrew means hill of Megiddo. It's where the armies of the world gather against Israel and against God near a mountain area in Israel called Megiddo, about 25 miles southwest of the southern tip of the Sea of Galilee. This battle will be discussed in a later chapter.